This is a reading from an introduction to the Devout Life by St. Francis de Sales. Chapter 30. Further Counsels Concerning Conversation. Let your speech be gentle, frank, sincere, clear, simple, and truthful. Avoid all duplicity, artifice, and affectation, for, although it is not expedient to tell everything which is true, it is at no time allowable to tell what is not. Never permit yourself to tell a lie in the way of excuse, or otherwise, remembering that God is a God of truth. If you accidentally say what is untrue, and it is possible at once to correct yourself by explanation or reparation, do so. A sincere excuse is of far more avail and more powerful than a lie. Although there may be occasions in which we may prudently and discreetly cover and keep back the truth, we should not do so except in matters of importance, where it is necessary for the glory and service of God. In truth, all artifice is dangerous, for the Holy Spirit will not dwell with the double-minded. No art is so valuable as simplicity. Worldly prudence and carnal wisdom appertain to the children of this world, but the children of God go on in a straightforward course, and their hearts are steady and confident. Lying, duplicity, and dissimulation are the sure signs of a low, groveling mind. In the 4th book of his Confessions, St. Augustine had said that his soul and that of his friend made but one soul, that after his friend's death his life was abhorrent to him, since he had but half a life. And yet for the same reason he feared to die, and to cause his friend to die wholly. Later in life, he thought these expressions too affected and artificial, and struck them out. Remark well how susceptible this great man was to affectation in words. Unquestionably, faithful, straightforward, sincere in speech is a great ornament to the life of a Christian. David says, I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. Psalm 38, chapter 2. And set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth, and a door round about my lips. Psalm 140, chapter 3. CXL. The royal St. Louis gave it as a counsel never to contradict anyone, unless there was some harm or sin in consenting, and thus to avoid altercation and dispute. But when it is necessary to contradict someone, or give an opposite opinion, it should be done gently and skillfully, so as not to irritate our neighbors, and besides we gain nothing by lack of mildness. The short speech so much commended by the ancients does not so much mean that we should use few words, as that we should not use many that are unprofitable, for in conversation quality matters more than quantity. I would have you avoid extremes, for there seems to be a lack of confidence or some degree of contempt in being always constrained and strictly refusing to join in familiar conversation, whilst the perpetual chatter and gossip, which gives no one else time or opportunity to speak, is trifling and vexatious. St. Louis condemned private discussion or conversation in general society, especially at mealtimes. If anyone has something good to say, he remarked, let him give all present the benefit of it, but let him be silent on private and important subjects. Chapter 31. Amusements. First, of those which are lawful. We must needs sometimes relax the mind, and give the body some recreation. Cassian relates that one day a sportsman found St. John the Evangelist amusing himself by stroking a partridge which sat upon his wrist. The man inquired how so great a person could spend his time in so humble an amusement, to which St. John replied by asking why did he not always keep his bow strung. For fear, the hunter answered, lest, if it were always bent, it should lose its power when it is wanted. Then, do not mind, rejoined the apostle, if I sometimes relax the strict application of my mind to seek some recreation, so that I may return with more energy to contemplation. It is a failing to be so harsh and rigid that we will not allow ourselves or others to indulge in any recreation. Air and exercise, cheerful games, music, field sports, and the like are such innocent amusements that they only require to be used with ordinary discretion, which confines all things to their fitting time, place, and degree. Those games which serve to exercise mental or bodily activity or skill, such as bowls, chess, etc., are praiseworthy amusements in themselves. You must, of course, guard against excess, either in the time they occupy or the importance given them. For if you devote too much time, they cease to be recreations and become occupations. You do not refresh the mind or body. On the contrary, you overpower and stun both. After playing for 5 or 6 hours at chess, the mind is tired and exhausted, and a long time spent in any active game, instead of invigorating the body, wearies it. If the interest of a game is too deep, it produces over-anxiety. Moreover, it is not well to attach great importance to such things as dexterity and skill in any mere game. Especially, avoid attaching yourself to them, for however allowable such things are as amusements, they become evils as soon as they absorb the heart. I do not mean that you may not lawfully take pleasure in your amusement, otherwise it would not be a recreation, but you must not be devoted to it or eager and absorbed in it. Chapter 32. Forbidden Games. Dice, cards, and similar games in which success depends mainly on chance are not only dangerous amusements, like dancing, but actually and naturally bad and blamable. For this reason they are forbidden both by civil and ecclesiastical law. Do you ask where the great harm is? The winner in such games does not win on his deserts, but according to chance, and the luck which often falls to those who have exercised neither skill nor industry, and this is contrary to reason. You will answer that this is taken for granted and understood, and thus you are not dealing unfairly. But it does not alter the fact. Your understanding and your game are alike unreasonable. For gain, which should be the reward of industry, becomes the reward of luck, which can deserve no reward, since it is no way dependent upon us. And although these games are called recreations, they are in truth most absorbing occupations. Is it not an occupation to keep the mind stretched to a close and continual attention, disturbed by incessant disquiet, apprehension, and excitement? Is any business more dreary, somber, and melancholy than that of a gamester? If you do but talk or laugh or cough, you distract them. Furthermore, the only gratification in play is to win, and is not that not an unrighteous gratification which can only be obtained by the losses and harm of another? Surely such pleasure is an unrighteous one. The great King St. Louis, hearing that his brother, the Comte d'Anjou, and Walter de Nemours were gambling, rose from his sick-bed and went with faltering steps to their apartment, where he rebuked them sharply, throwing their dice and part of their money out of the window and into the sea. And the holy and chaste damsel, Sarah, speaking in prayer to God of her innocence, said, Thou knowest, O Lord, that never have I joined myself with them that play. Tobit, chapter 3, verses 16 to 17. Chapter 33. Balls and recreations which are lawful, but dangerous. Balls and dances are in themselves matters of indifference, but the ordinary attendant circumstances that have a tendency to evil, and consequently are perilous. They take place at night, and the darkness and obscurity add to the dangers of amusements in their own nature so susceptible of evil. Moreover, the long watching which they involve entails the loss of the following mornings, and thereby the service of God is neglected. It is surely a folly to reverse day and night, light and darkness, and follow idle vanities instead of good works. Those who go to a ball carry vanity with them, and vanity has a great tendency to excite bad passions and blamable affections. I would say to you of balls what physicians say of mushrooms. The best are but unwholesome food, and I say the best balls are but indifferent. If, however, you must eat mushrooms, Let them be well prepared. If you cannot well avoid mixing in such pursuits, go in a careful, watchful spirit, with modesty, dignity, and pure intentions. Eat but little and seldom, says the physician, of this unwholesome food, for however they are cooked, they are hurtful in any quantity. They go seldom, and beware that you do not become overfond of the amusement. Pliny says that mushrooms, being porous and spongy, easily imbibe any infection, so that if they are near a serpent, they acquire its venom. So balls and similar assemblies usually attract all that is least commendable, while envy, disputes, vexations, and imprudent attachments abound there, and find a more than usually easy access into the heart. Such idle recreations are generally dangerous, inasmuch as they dissipate the spirit of devotion, weaken our energies, cool our charity, and arouse many evil inclinations in the heart. Therefore they should be entered upon with great caution. It is said that after eating mushrooms you should always drink some good wine, and after mixing in such amusements you should arouse some good and holy reflections, which may counteract any dangerous impressions made on your mind by the vain pleasure you have enjoyed. Suitable reflections would be, whilst you were at this ball, there were souls in torment, owing to sins committed or instigated under similar circumstances. And at the same time, holy and pious men were serving God, singing his praises and contemplating his beauty. How much better was their time spent than yours? Whilst you were dancing, some souls departed this life in bitter anguish, and thousands of men and women were wandering in the streets or lying on their beds of suffering, enduring the pains of fever and other diseases. They know no rest. Will you not pity them, and remember that the day will come when you must suffer as they do now, whilst others will be dancing as you have done? Our blessed Lord, his mother, the saints and angels were watching you, and surely they pitied and lamented over you, seeing your heart occupied and pleased with such unsatisfying trifles. Whilst you are thus engaged, time slips on, and death draws nigh. He mocks you and calls you to join in his dance, in which the music is the groaning for past sin, and in which you will make but one step from life to death. This is the true pastime of men, since in it they pass in an instant from time to eternity, either of good or ill. God will inspire you with many similar reflections if you live in his fear.